Good morning. Yes. Good.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir. You're loud and clear, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's wait for 5 10 minutes. People are joining here, but mostly people are joining on YouTube.
All
Hello.
right. Right.
Let's wait for 5 minutes, or shall we start now?
No problem.
Okay. Because YouTube is easy to join, so people are joining there.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir. You're loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's wait for 5 10 minutes. People are joining here, but mostly people are joining on YouTube.
All right. Right.
Hmm. Uh, shall we start? I think people are joining there on different platforms, they, uh, in Zoom and also on YouTube channel. So I think let's start it. Sir, shall we?
Yes, start, please. Yes, yes, please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining this event. Uh, Raksha Raksha is an event which started in 2020. It's on disaster risk reduction, so basically a perception challenge and why ahead with the respect of collaborative expertise. So this what we are finding in this event. So Raksha started in 2020, the International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction. So basically, if I talk about Raksha, uh, it started during the peak pandemic in 2020 on the International Day for the risk reduction. During this event, pandemic was understand that disaster can't be managed, but can also be reduced. Disaster risk reduction won't be possible without the collaboration of every individual to be a part of this event. The major challenge was making the understand. We thought that it was the best time to make the people to listen during the COVID pandemic time. Even event was the kind of child idea, small idea. We never thought it going to at a higher extent. But with the support of Dr. Rakesh Dubey and the people which keep on joining the event, it goes at a very another extent, and it become from national to it become an international event. So if I talk about the first event that happened in 2020, there we have almost 12 participants. That event run for 7 days, and we also have a delegate from UNDP to talk on that. So total participant in that particular event, 500 plus viewers were there on a national event, and it's a 6 days event, and it goes at a very high level. Second event was done on a short notice due to again the pandemic that happened to us. So in that event, we had Professor N. Vinod Chandra and Dr. Ashwini K. Saxena to as a speaker, and that event was a one-day event. But in that, almost 1,200 people participated in had viewed that event through different YouTube and uh, YouTube and the Zoom platform. This is this event is not only is a kind of a non-profit event. We are just working how people can be increase, how people can be you can say promote to work on the disaster management thing. So this is all about the event, and now I like to thank Brigadier BK Khanna to present here. Thank you very much, sir, to give your time for the event. Even we know that you are too busy. You are having a busy schedule. I also would like to thank Dr. Mayank Dadu. He is state secretary for MP, and he's also a trainer, auditor, and fire protection and life saving system designer. So thank you very much to be a part of this event. I will like to call Dr. Rakesh Dubey, who is whose brainchild was this Raksha event. Dr. Rakesh Dubey is a former director of Disaster Management Institute of Bhopal. Sir is having a vast experience, and now he is the CEO and founder of a company, ERDMP, which is working majorly on the uh, audit and trainings of the disaster management team, especially focusing on the oil and management thing. Thank you very much, sir. So now I would like to pass on the baton to Dr. Rakesh Dubey, sir. Sir, please, you proceed this event, and let's have the wonderful session on that. Thank you very much, sir. Please carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Ram, for nice initiation of this, the third event on the Raksha, and I appreciate that you have very nicely briefed about the background of this Raksha. On behalf of organizers, means from our side, we welcome to Brigadier B.K. Khanna Sahab, who is long associated with me personally and also as an institutional when he was in NDMA and I was in DMI. So it is almost, if I'm not wrong, since inception of the NDMA from 2005, we are still associated. At that time, he was senior advisor at NDMA. So we worked very closely on that. No need to introduce Brigadier Khanna ji. He is well known as a personality in the area of disaster management. He worked extensively to various state government and international government, and presently he is working with UNDRR as a CEO, which is a wing of United Nations. So he has a vast experience. ब्रिगेडियर साहब के बारे में बोलना तो हिंदी में ऐसे होगा जैसे सूर्य को दिया दिखाने वाली बात है। तो ब्रिगेडियर साहब से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि सर, मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि अगर आप भी थोड़ा सा, व्हेन दिस माइक विल बी हैंडेड ओवर टू यू, मैं चाहूंगा कि आप अपने अचीवमेंट्स हमारे ऑडियंसेस को बता पाएं, हमारे दर्शकों को बता पाएं, टू हैव ए बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग on the disaster management and what exposure you have. So I request to Brigadier Khanna Sahab on that part. And second speaker is Mr. Dadu. He's a wonderful man. I met him, I think, not more than 1 month. On 29th of last month, we met at Bhopal. He's from Indore, and he is basically, in very brief introduction, he impressed me a lot. So I thought that let's go with the new, जिसको बोलते हैं नई कड़ियों को जोड़ना चाहिए, तभी माला अच्छी बनती है. तो in a short meeting, he impressed me a lot, and he is doing a lot of activities in not only in disaster management, rather he is basically expert of the fire and safety, and he is representing state chapter of FASI, which is a national body. And I hope that this will be beginning with Mr. Mayank Dadu. We have to go a long way. There is a lot of scope, and sky is the limit. So we have to move in that way. So I welcome Mr. Mayank Dadu also, who is from Indore. And I will request him also when the session will come to him. I request that Mr. Dadu should also highlight his achievements. This is something, I learned from some events at the global level, that it's better to introduce ourselves rather than some one person introduce. That is a better thing. So welcome, Mr. Dadu. And I also welcome all audiences who are from the different parts of the country. I am seeing a good number of audiences are there, and this event is screening on YouTube also. So number of delegates are also on there. And my introduction and welcome and thanks will not be finishing if I will not acknowledge the initiatives and the effort by Mr. Ram Meena, who is our close associate. He is basically working behind the scene, and I remember him since inception of our first Raksha event 2020. That was the core time of the COVID. That was the first year of the COVID, and first phase is going on. At that time, we conceived this concept, and I do appreciate the way he took this challenge. And that was, I should say, it's a wonderful event for us. It went for the seven days continuously. I will acknowledge Mr. Ram's contribution and his effort and his hard work and his networking. He is still on the job. And I would put up one point that Mr. Ram, when we will go for the next fourth event, I think it should be again in the same way. as we did the first event. Let it be a little bit bigger event. We will invite a number of speakers also, because Raksha has a concept of this, that it costs nothing to the speakers and nothing to the audiences. And this is the very economical mode. I will not use the word cheap. It's an economical mode, because speakers are putting their best efforts and audiences are also getting their maximum benefit in learning the things. So we would like to go ahead in the next event, which may be a little bit long. Mr. Ram, we should start working just now, so that it will be again a event which we started in 2020. I hope that by the next year, everything will come up in a proper shape and other things. Now coming to the theme, which is very, very important for us. Both of the speakers are well known on this topic, but as per my understanding on early warning and the disaster management, simple thing generally मैं promote करता हूँ कि हमें we should use technology, we should use high knowledge, we should use high caliber of the person's technology, but it should be translated in such a way that what Gandhi ji told, जो भी आप करें ये सोचें कि लास्ट पर्सन को क्या होने वाला है. तो सिमिलरली जो अर्ली वार्निंग और डिजास्टर से रिलेटेड चीजें हैं, अर्ली वार्निंग किस प्रकार से सिंपल चीजों में होना चाहिए. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि जैसे हम कंप्यूटर पे यूज कर रहे हैं, आज हम लोग ऑनलाइन कनेक्टेड हैं. वी डोंट नो द टेक्नोलॉजी हाउ इट इज वर्किंग, बट वी नो इट. क्लिक दिस बटन, क्लिक दैट बटन, switch off that button, switch off that button. Like that, if we want to speak, we have to mute or unmute. We have to go for the video on or off. Simple thing. We are not going in detail that how it is working. That's not our business. Similarly, for the warning system, they should be in such a way that people should have a very simple way the understanding about the warning signal. No need to go in detail how it should be said that it is now in such a way it is coming alarming and it is now in a safe zone. So we have to think it in this area of the warning, which is the agenda point of UNDRR. Also that we have to go in such a way that the input should be high, but output should be very simple to the understanding level of a common person. मैं एक एग्जांपल और लेना चाहूँगा बहुत सिंपल वे में टू दी ऑडियंसेस आल्सो, दैट अगर हम समझते हैं कि कहीं आग लग जाए तो हमें क्या किस प्रकार से हमें जाना चाहिए. सिंपल सी चीज है, किस प्रकार से हमें पता लगे कि हमें यहाँ आग लग गई है. तो हमारे जो इक्विपमेंट हैं दे शुड बी वेरी हाई प्रिसीजंस के हों कि छोटे से स्मोक में भी वो डिटेक्ट कर पाएं और लोगों को एजुकेट कर पाएं. इन्हीं सेक्टर पे हम लोग इस पर चर्चा करेंगे और हमारे पास लर्नेड स्पीकर्स हैं. ब्रिगेडियर साहब का अपना अनुभव है. ही इज वेरी सीनियर पर्सन आल्सो. ही वाज ए वेटरन आल्सो. डेफिनेटली आर्मी में भी तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा हाई लेवल का वार्निंग सिग्नल्स रहते हैं उनके यहाँ तो सिग्नल पूरी होती है. मैं समझता हूँ कि दोनों स्पीकर दादू जी अभी वर्क कर ही रहे हैं. दोनों स्पीकर्स इस टॉपिक पर बहुत ज़्यादा जस्टिफाई कर पाएंगे और लोगों को एजुकेट कर पाएंगे. और मैं समझता हूँ कि ये प्रोग्राम में जो लोग ज्वाइन करेंगे दे विल आल्सो रिमेंबर, यस दिस इज द अर्ली वार्निंग, हाउ वी शुड यूज इट एंड हाउ वी कैन फर्दर गो हेड फॉर दैट. So I am handing over to session to Brigadier Khanna Sahab with humble request. Brigadier Sahab, few lines about you, and then the session will be for you on that topic. Welcome to Khanna Sahab. Khanna Sahab, floor is to you.
Thank you, Dr. Dubey, and thank you, Ramina. And it was nice of you to invite me, and I'm honored that I'm able to give my views on a topic, of course, which is very, very relevant this thing, not only in fact in India but at the international level also. As Dubey Sahab has said, okay, first my little more of introduction. I won't go too much of, because अपने आप को जो है ना कहना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है कि क्या 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 कहा जाए. But yes, I will tell you that I joined the army way back. Of course, some of you may not have been born in 1966, and of course I was there for about 32 years. और Bangladesh war में हिस्सा लिया था as a captain, and we liberated the Bangladesh, and was honored by the Bangladesh government in 2019 when they invited us and made us the freedom fighter of the country. And of course took part in Op Pawan, that is in Sri Lanka. Of course, I was a battalion commander at that time. And of course, I was a brigade commander, and in GNK as well, also the Western sector. And of course, have been awarded about the Sena Medal and VC7 Medal twice, and about 5 other decorations. That after that, of course, for 6 years, of course, I was in the Border Security Force also, where 3 years I was there as a chief instructor with their academy in Tekanpo, and 3 years at the border in Rajasthan, covering an area of about 499 kilometers. And joined in National Institute of Disaster Management just after my superannuation from the BSF, and was there for about 2 years. This thing in the NIDM, and before the NDMA came in, of course, I was one of the, in fact, founder, senior advisor. Of course, Dr. Dubey was mentioning it right from the beginning, 2005, and then of course left them in 2014. So of course, lot of course, the interaction took place. Lot of course, we also learned. I mean, I also learned this thing. Also being there, my own experience in the army as well as BSF came handy, and I mean, with the, of course, Dr. Dubey, of course, we have had very close association, and we have worked very closely, and especially, of course, when we're conducting the mock exercises, as also when we're working on the that is the guidelines, this thing relevant to the industries. So that is this thing. And now, of course, I'm in the FICCI as a senior advisor to them, and also the dealing with the UNDRR. What is the UNDRR? Basically, is there only the private sector where, in fact, UN is having a as far as disaster risk reduction, it is dealing with the 2 aspects. One is the government, and the second is the private sector. So in the private sector is the one, of course, where I am dealing with them, and I am heading as far as from India side is concerned. And we have been, I mean, I have been fortunate to, in fact, attend most of their conferences. Way back in Ulaanbaatar, that was in Mongolia, 2018, and then of course again in Philippines we had it, and then of course Geneva we had it 2019 before the COVID came, and then of course recently we had in Bali in May. This is in Indonesia. That is I mean that is the global platform where all the in fact countries take part. Geneva was also in 2019. Was a global platform with all the industry, I mean, all the 4 countries take part, as also the other stakeholders. And in fact, now I'm in Brisbane in September. We had a regional conference. That is regional platform. They call it RP, where of course the Asia Pacific countries, of course, they get together and they discuss it. In all this, which I must tell this, so that we have been in fact discussion on the early warning was one of the primary, in fact, subjects which is there only. And of course, from there only I have got from, because my son is here in Samoa. Some of them maybe not be knowing it. Samoa is one of the island countries in the Pacific. I am speaking to you, I mean, from there only. And here, of course, which is already night when you are saying it, you are in good day. With the that background, let me, of course, come to the topic of the day. That is on the early warning system. Now, let me go a little bit of a background as to what is the, in fact, the background about the international conferences which have taken place on the disaster risk reduction. If you are, there are 3 international conferences which took place in, for the first one was in 1994, which was held in Hugo, this thing, and they came up with what is known as the Hugo strategy and plan for a safer world. I repeat it, Yokohama strategy and plan for a safer world. And the second, of course, one was there, that was again in, that was in Japan only, Hugo framework. That was the Hugo, sorry, that was in this thing. So I'm sorry, the first one was in Yokohama. First one in 1994, I'm corrected. The first one was in Yokohama. That was strategy and plan for the safer world. And the second one was in the Hugo framework for the action, 2005 and 2015. The first one was from 1994 to 2005. And the second one was, that is the Hugo framework was for 2005 to 2015. Now, both these, in fact, they were, were not able to make much of an impact. Reason being there only, firstly, it was more of a generic. There were no specifics which were given. And secondly, the more important was there only that there was no implementation, in fact, institution which the UN has created it, the same so that they can coordinate, implement, as also monitor the whole thing. And that is how, of course, the UN IDRR was created in 2004. And thereafter, of course, that UN IDRR 2019 has now been converted into UNDRR, United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction. That is where its offices are there in Geneva. So, after this 2015, before the Hugo, the framework was to finish by 2015. For 3 years, they were working on it only. The countries were working on it only. That how should we go ahead? That we should have a specific target, specific priority, etc., so that we can be able to monitor it properly. And that is the reason where the Sendai framework was ultimately the outcome. And Sendai is also in Japan. If you see, all these 3 international conferences were held in Japan only. That is Yokohama, this thing, Hyundai, as also the Sendai framework. So all of them 3, you might say, why not at any other places? Well, the Japan is one of the countries which is the most prepared for the disaster. Well, of course, you might say the next one, 2030, of course, maybe in India. So India is also coming up very well. Okay, now what is the Sendai framework? What is it say? In fact, in short, in fact, it says that Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, it is aimed to achieve the substantially reduction in the disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihood, and health, and in the economic, physical, social, cultural, as also environmental assets of the persons, of the businesses, and countries, this thing all over in the next 15 years. That was basically 2015 to 2030. If you see here, all aspects, it's not only disaster risk, all aspects of the development is the one which has been included in that framework. And in that, of course, they created, they came up with the 2 priorities. One was one is the priority, and the other is the target. There were 4 priorities. There are 4 priorities, and there are 7 targets. And the 4 priorities, that those they are very clear. And the 4 priorities are that firstly, the understanding the disaster risk. पहले तो अंडरस्टैंड करो डिजास्टर रिस्क होता क्या है. एक चीज और मैं बताना चाहूंगा इधर के पहले हम सिर्फ कहते थे कि डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. After this disaster management, the first new thing which is coming up these days is basically what that is the disaster risk reduction. तो अगर आप डिजास्टर रिस्क को आप रिड्यूस कर सकते हो तो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट अपने आप हो सकता है. Then that was basically to understand the disaster risk. What are the disaster risks? Second priority was the strengthening the disaster risk governance. Now, this is again very, very important because the governance in the sense that government की मतलब जो involvement is very, very important. What is generally happens there, why in fact in the developing country as also the least developing country, why it has not taken off so much, right? Initially, of course, now it is taking off very rapidly, but initially it was there only because the governments come only for 4-5 years. They want to see the result. कि मैं वोटिंग के खासतौर पर डेमोक्रेसी के अंदर देखा जाए कि 5 साल के अंदर क्या क्या मतलब जो विजिबल थिंग्स है, और ये तो कह नहीं सकते कि 5 साल के अंदर डिजास्टर हो, और इसलिए मतलब जो रिजल्ट्स आर नॉट विजिबल, तो हेंस ऑफ कोर्स दे से कि नहीं यार इसको थोड़ा प्रायोरिटी कम कर दो. दैट इज बेसिकली इट वाज इंसिस्टेड इन दिस लैंग्वेज दैट द स्ट्रेंथनिंग द डिजास्टर रिस्क गवर्नेंस very, very important, that in your planning and in your development this thing document, it must come in. Third, the priority was the investing in the disaster reduction for the resilience. Again, investing in disaster reduction for resilience. Resilience is very important. What is a resilience? Resilience का मतलब अगर आप देखें पानी एक बाल्टी है, उसके अंदर पानी भरो, पानी के अंदर एक अपने पास में बॉल लो, बॉल ऊपर से प्रेस करो नीचे, और उसके बाद में छोड़ो, बॉल नीचे जाएगा कितनी देर में एकदम से ऊपर आ, तो वो उसकी रेजिलियंस बहुत ज्यादा है. इसी तरीके से जब भी आपके ऊपर कोई डिजास्टर जब भी आया है तो आप मतलब जो है नीचे गए हो, आपकी इंडस्ट्री नीचे चली गई है, आपका मतलब कार्य नीचे आ गया है, तो किसी ने जल्दी आप ऊपर सकते हैं, तो वो मतलब जो है रेजिलियंस कहा जाता है. तो ये कह रहे थे मतलब जो है आप उसमें आप इन्वेस्टमेंट करो, उसके लिए आपको पैसे खर्च करने पड़ेंगे, उसके लिए आपको मतलब जो है you will have to whether you are in the private sector, whether you are in the government, so you will have to earmark certain amount of the money, so to say yes, we want to have more resilience in our efforts. And last was there only, that is the enhance the disaster preparedness for effective response and build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. This is where the priority 4 is there, which we are going to discuss today. That is one of the priorities, that is priority 4. I repeat it, enhance the disaster preparedness for the effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. One thing I would like to mention here, that this Sendai framework was adopted on the 18th of March 2015 and by 187 countries all over the world, including India. So they signed for it. And similarly, the 7 targets. Now, 7 targets they had it. First target was they only reduce the mortality. First target was reduce the mortality to its half. What was there in 2015? By 2030, it must be able to, you should be able to reduce because जिंदगी लोगों की कम मतलब जब आदमी मरने नहीं चाहिए. Second, that is the target B was they say reduce the affected area. That is the people who are affected by the disaster, who get displaced, they should also be reduced almost by 50%. The target C was they reduce the economic losses. Now, economic losses, पहला जो target है ये है reduce the mortality, and the third one is there only to reduce the economic losses. Economic losses क्योंकि economic loss ज़्यादा होते रहेंगे तो वो development जो है के लिए और development नहीं कर सकते, ज़्यादातर पैसा इसी में जाएगा. And चौथा मतलब जो है that is the target D was they reduce the damage to the critical infrastructure. Now critical infrastructure basically जैसे आपकी मतलब जो है गवर्नमेंट बिल्डिंग्स वगैरह हैं, आपके ATCs हैं, आपके मतलब जो है जो डिफेंस एस्टेब्लिशमेंट वगैरह हैं, आपके रेलवे स्टेशन वगैरह हैं, those are the critical this infrastructure, hospitals वगैरह जो है, they all come under this particular category. And the E is the prepare the strategies as well as the plans at the local level, at the regional, as also at the regional as well as also country level. So that of course, in case you got the plan made, then only you'll be able to, in fact, do something. कभी ये भी कहते हैं या प्लान तो बना के रख लेते हैं, पर प्लान के मुताबिक तो डिजास्टर आते नहीं. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है, पर एट द सेम टाइम अगर आपके पास नहीं भी आता है तो आपका मतलब दिल का दौरा नहीं पड़ेगा। अगर डिजास्टर आ जाता है आपको जो है कोर्स करेक्शन करनी पड़ेगी, आपको थोड़ा हो सकता है कि आपको कुछ जो है उसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा चेंजेस करने पड़े, पर प्लानिंग बनाना बहुत जरूरी है। प्लानिंग के मुताबिक आपको डिजास्टर नहीं मिलेगा, पर एट द सेम टाइम यू कैन नॉट डू अवे विद द प्लान। Then that is the F is there the develop the international cooperation, that is there only आपस में cooperation, ये ताकि जो डेवलपमेंट एक जगह हो रही है उसका फायदा दूसरों को भी मिले, इसलिए इंटरनेशनल कोऑपरेशन बहुत जरूरी है। एंड द टारगेट जी जो आज का मुद्दा है, दैट इज अवेलेबिलिटी एंड द एक्सेस टू द मल्टी हैजर्ड अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम and the disaster risk information and the assessment to the maximum people. Availability of the and access to the multi-hazard early warning system and disaster risk information and assessment. And in short, अगर आप कहा जाए कि Sendai framework में है क्या, तो I can say that is the Sendai framework. The focus is on the adoption of measures which address the 3 dimensions of the disaster risk, that is exposure to the hazards, vulnerability, and the capacity and the hazards characteristics. I repeat, Sendai framework focuses on the adoption of the measures which address the 3 dimensions of the disaster risk, basically exposure to the hazards, vulnerability, and the capacity and the hazard characteristics. In order to prevent the creation of the new disasters, that not new, rather risk, not disasters, because risk reduce only to automatic disaster will get reduced. Reduce the existing risk as also increase the resilience. Creation of the new, reduce the, rather prevent the creation of the new risk, reduce the existing risk, as also increase the resilience. In short, that is what is the Sendai framework. Is there only. As I said, so that is the UNDRR is the one which is in fact monitoring the whole thing, and they came up in February 2017 with the Sendai framework data. In fact, readiness review. What does it include? It includes basically the availability as well as the national disaster-related data to monitor and the report. That's basically the only that is on the indicators and measure for the global targets of the security framework. That is basically what they given the targets, rather parameters on which, of course, they can measure the various global targets, this thing which they have set up. Secondly, of course, the disaster-related data gaps, whatever the gaps which are there only, and the type of the resources which are required to fill those data gaps, they have also been identified. And thirdly, of course, the country's current, of course, that is the ability to establish the baselines for measuring the global targets. That is what unki ability kya hai, unki basically ability kya hai only. That is what they came. I mean, has also been these, of course, the parameters include that, and that is the how they are monitoring it every year. And the global platform which are about which I was mentioning it only, there specifically they meet with the government, the people, and they get the feedback from that only. Besides, of course, getting it regularly from them by the reports. We are, in fact, in the midst of, if you see the Sendai framework, we are in the midst of it. It started in 2015, and now 2022 is there. Next year is going to be 8 years finished. That means they are going to have a midterm, in fact, review of the Sendai framework, and this will be held in the New York and in the UN Assembly, and where, of course, UNDRR will be presenting, and all the countries, etc., their representatives, etc., they will, in fact, say whether whatever the targets they have got it, they will be able to, in fact, have been able to fulfill it. There are some course correction more required, and to get the feedback where, of course, in that particular place. So mostly all the state, countries' ministers of the disaster management, they are the one, of course, who will be representing there. And now coming to today, what is the early warning? Now, early warning, hota kya hai? Early warning system, we can define it as a set of course, capability to generate and disseminate timely warning to enable the people to evacuate in times of emergency. That is basically what, in short, is the early warning system. Now, there are various types of early warning system. Geological early warning system, like for the earthquake, for the tsunami, for the volcanoes, and for the landslides. And hydrological, of course, early warning system, like the floods, and is there, like the drought is there, like the cyclone, typhoon, etc. And thirdly, of course, for that is the type of that is only the forest fire. So these are the various types of early warning system is there. Now, you must be keen to know as to where does India stand. Now, India is one of the countries which have been, you see, whatever it is mentioned here, what it mentioned here, that the target G says substantially increase the availability and the access to the multi-hazard early warning system and disaster risk information and assessment. So what India has done it, India is one of the countries, of course, which has developed the early warning system for most of the disasters. Let me, in fact, inform you in a nutshell what we have achieved it from my knowledge from the NDMA and thereafter. Firstly, let us see for the early warning system for the earthquake. Now, for the earthquake, course, what we have done it, various states, like in northeast state, also in the Uttarakhand, etc. What we have done, they have put certain sensors. They put it, these sensors, they are being known as the shake alerts. So as soon as any movement underground which take place, these sensors, they are very sensitive. They sensors, they will come to know about it. And they pass it on the information. And as we know, the earthquake has got two waves, primary wave as well as the secondary wave. And there is a gap between the primary wave and the secondary wave. So they pick up the primary wave, in fact, shaking, and they inform. Second wave will come, in fact, depending on how away from there you are from the epicenter of the disaster. The more away from you are only, the more information passed. So this is the information passed on to it, the difference between the primary wave and secondary wave by these sensors through that directly communication system to the people, directly people who are affected, so that they can even, you see, even if during the earthquake, even if you get about 5 seconds, so you are able to come out. Of course, in a story building, etc., you might say you may not be able to come, but there, of course, you say, okay, we'll be requiring it some more information. But yes, like if there is an earthquake which is happening in the Uttarakhand, or happening in the J&K, by the time they come to Delhi, you will get at least information about 30 to 40 seconds. So that is good enough. You can come down at 30 to 40 seconds. So that is basically what is there. So as of now, there is no earthquake prediction. That is basically the work is going on still. And that is, of course, one of the areas of the research. Secondly is, let's go to the tsunami. Now, India is one of the countries, of course, which has, in fact, developed the tsunami early warning system. And who has developed it? That is the INCOAS. Now, you might say, what is INCOAS? The INCOAS is the Indian National Center for the Ocean Information Services, which is located in Hyderabad. It has, in fact, what it has done is that it has got a dedicated satellite, and underneath the sea, of course, there are certain sensors which have been placed, and on top of the sea also there are some buoys there only. So any earthquake which is happening underground, under the sea, yes, the earthquake happens under the sea, that only creates a tsunami. So it comes in, from there, of course, it gets picked up, and from there only it comes to the buoy. From buoys, of course, go directly to the satellite, and from satellite, of course, they pass it on directly to the IMD as well as the INCOAS area, and INCOAS, of course, directly system that they pass it on direct to the district. So that the whole thing takes only 5 to 7 seconds. All these things, so it's automatic. they have also developed, I mean, Inquest has also developed, they have set up what is known as storm surge early warning system for the Indian coast only. This is basically the one that the system they got it for all the Indian Ocean RIP countries, 23, 24 of them. They are all informed simultaneously also. So which gives a data, wave कब आएंगी, कितनी इंटेंसिटी आएंगी और कहाँ हिट करेंगी, ये इंफॉर्मेशन उसमें पास ऑन हो सकती है. बट इसके अलावा भी उन्होंने मतलब जो है दे आल्सो सेट अप ए स्टॉर्म सर्ज द अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम दैट इज ओनली फॉर द इंडियन कोस्ट इन कोलैबोरेशन विद द IMD and to forecast the cyclone induced storm surge as well as inundation extent. और साइक्लोन की कितनी जो वेव है, जो अपनी जो स्टॉर्म सर्ज है कितनी हाई जाएगी, ऐसे जो जिसको कहा जाता है कि पानी की वॉल कितनी ऊपर तक जाएगी और कितनी अंदर जाएगी. आपको पता है कि समुद्र का पानी खारा होता है, वो अंदर कितनी दूर जाएगी उतनी देर जैसे उस एरिया का जो है एरिया के अंदर कभी कल्टीवेशन 2-3 साल तक नहीं हो सकती है. तो इसलिए पहले से वार्निंग देने के लिए ये जैसे पहले दिया जाता है, पहले देते हैं ताकि उनको लोगों को पता लग सकता है. इसलिए फ्लड वार्निंग के लिए भी हमारे पास फ्लड वार्निंग सिस्टम जो है ये प्रोवाइड किया जाता है. CWC सेंट्रल वाटर कमीशन वालों ने और IMD ने ये जो एक्यूरेट इंफॉर्मेशन देते हैं ताकि इंडिविजुअल जो हैं और जो डिसीजन मेकर हैं वो अपना इन्फॉर्म्ड डिसीजन ले सकें और कि ये लोगों को मतलब जो है इवैक्यूएशन कराना है ड्यूरिंग इमरजेंसी के अंदर, सर्टेन विलेज को इवैक्यूएशन कराना है, सर्टेन टाउन्स को इवैक्यूएशन कराना है या नहीं. इसके अलावा जो आजकल फ्लैश फ्लड भी आ रहे हैं जो आमतौर पर सिटीज के अंदर देखा जाता है, तो फ्लैश फ्लड गाइडेंस सिस्टम इज देयर. ये फ्लैश फ्लड गाइडेंस सिस्टम ये इंफॉर्मेशन देता है 6 से 24 घंटे पहले का. जितने भी साउथ एशियन कंट्रीज हैं उनके लिए है, पूरे साउथ एशियन कंट्री के लिए, जैसे इंडिया, नेपाल, भूटान, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका. ये इट एनेबल द कंट्री टू इशू द इम्पैक्ट बेस्ड फ्लैश फ्लड forecast at the watershed as also the warning to the target the cities and this thing this is so that they can take action. एक सिटी के अंदर इतना होने वाला है, तो ये फ्लैश फ्लड के लिए भी अभी वार्निंग सिस्टम होने हैं और इसके लिए भी डॉपलर रडार भी लगाए जा रहे हैं, लग गए हैं राजा कई जगह पर, खासतौर पर हिली एरिया के अंदर. जैसे आपने देखा होगा कि अभी इवन ये जब एनुअली यात्रा चलती है जैसे उसके अंदर भी अपना JNK के अंदर, तो उसके अंदर भी जो है डॉपलर डाल लगाए जाते हैं ताकि पता लग जाए कि तो कितनी देर के अंदर जो है जो वातावरण चेंज होने वाला है. क्योंकि हिल्स एरिया के अंदर जो है आमतौर हिल्स में और सी के अंदर जो है एटमॉस्फेयर बहुत जल्दी बदली होता रहता है. तो वो इंफॉर्मेशन जो है सिर्फ डॉपलर रडार ही दे सकता है क्योंकि वो इंफॉर्मेशन 1-1 मिनट के अंदर दिया जाता है. Lastly, of course, we have got also the cyclone this thing a warning system जिसके अंदर जो है सैटेलाइट है, स्पेशली सैटेलाइट है जो कि साइक्लोन को डिटेक्ट करते हैं. जब साइक्लोन ये हो रहा है, साइक्लोन कहाँ होता है, आमतौर इक्वेटर के 10 डिग्री ऊपर उस एरिया के अंदर, वहाँ से जो होता है जैसे ही वहाँ पर मतलब जो है कोई जो है फॉर्मेशन शुरू हुई जो है तो वो पता लग जाता है. तो उसको सबसे पहले क्या है वो वार्निंग दी जाती है, वो उसको कहा जाता है प्री साइक्लोन वार्निंग, रादर प्री साइक्लोन वॉच, नॉट वार्निंग, प्री साइक्लोन वॉच. एंड प्री साइक्लोन वॉच जो है ये आमतौर पर 72 घंटे पहले दी जाती है. जैसे कि जो है एक साइक्लोन डिस्टर्बेंस जो है शुरू हो गया है एंड ये आप इसके लिए मतलब जो है तैयार हो, कहाँ आएगा वो बाद में बताया जाएगा. एंड द सेकंड ऑफ कोर्स द स्टेज कम देयर, दिस इज नोन एज द साइक्लोन अलर्ट which is issued 48 hours earlier and which gives the location and the intensity of the cyclone and the direction in which it is moving. It gives the, in fact, the location, it gives the intensity and it also gives the direction in which it is moving. And this third stage is basically there the cyclone warning that is at least given by 24 hours before the commencement of the adverse weather over the coastal area. And it also, this particular time, also give when the landfall takes place. Landfall is then when the this storm surge is going to come and the waves etc. are going to hit the mainland also. तो लैंडफॉल कहाँ पर होगा वो एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन दिया जा सकता है, और अभी जो है IMD इतनी फोरकास्ट कर सकते हैं कि वो आमतौर पर बता देते हैं कि एग्जैक्ट एरिया कहाँ पर हो सकता है। और ये में हमें मतलब होना चाहिए कि आपने ये भी देखा होगा कि IMD के जो अभी जो है पिछले कोई 10-15 साल के अंदर जो भी अर्ली वार्निंग दे रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल ही बहुत अच्छी तरीके से दे रहे हैं। उसका रीजन सिर्फ ये है कि हम उस टाइम के अंदर जो है NDMA में ही थे, तो उसके अंदर हमने 500 करोड़ रुपया दिया था उनके लिए, ताकि उनको अपना जो है जितने भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स वगैरह हैं वो उसको नए वाले लेके आ सकते हैं। उसके अंदर ये आ रहा था वो साइक्लोन रिस्क मिटिगेशन प्रोजेक्ट। उसके अंदर अगर आप देखा जाए नेट पे जाएंगे तो आपको पता लग जाएगा, साइक्लोन रिस्क मिटिगेशन प्रोजेक्ट which was there for the 13 states as well as the 4 union territories। तो वो मतलब जो उसके अंदर IMD भी शामिल है, पहला पैसा उन्हीं को मिला था, बाकी स्टेट्स को बाद में मिला था। तो उसी की वजह से जो है अभी जो है हमारे IMD से फोरकास्ट जो है वो बहुत अच्छा आ रहे हैं। लास्ट इसके अंदर जो स्टेज है वो पोस्ट लैंडफॉल जो है आउटकम इसको कहा जाता है, और वो 12 घंटे पहले दी जाती है, पहले 12 घंटे दिया जाता है। एंड ये साइक्लोन जो है जब हिट कर दिया है तो उसके बाद में कहाँ जाएगा, किस डायरेक्शन में जाएगा और कहाँ तक पहुँचेगा। तो ये मतलब जो है 4 स्टेजेस हैं जिसकी वजह से साइक्लोन दिया जाता है। अगर आप देखेंगे अभी तो इंडिया ने अभी हर एक तरह के जो मेजर डिजास्टर कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर मतलब उन्होंने मतलब अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम लिया है, ना केवल अपने आप मतलब जो है उसको इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, बट हमें मतलब जो है ये दूसरे वाले कंट्रीज को भी इसके लिए मदद दी जा रही है। और हमें वी शुड बी वेरी प्राउड ऑफ इट दैट इनक्वायस इज वन ऑफ इट्स ओन काइंड। नहीं तो हम पहले वो जीएस के साथ में देखते थे, आज ये मतलब जो है ये एशिया पैसिफिक वाले एरिया जो है उन्होंने बनाया उसको मानते थे, पर अभी जो है हमारा जो अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम है इज द बेस्ट दे से इन द वर्ल्ड, इज बेटर। तो वी शुड बी वेरी प्राउड ऑफ आवर इंडियन अचीवमेंट्स आल्सो। वेल इन फैक्ट एट द सेम टाइम कई बार ये भी होता है कि इतना अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम के अलावा भी क्यों हम फेल होते हैं, हमें ये भी देखना चाहिए क्यों फेल हो जाते हैं कि अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम क्यों नहीं जाता है। जैसे कि डॉक्टर दुबे भी बता रहे थे कि लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी इज द वन विच इज फेलियर, विच इज वेयर जो भी हमारी इंफॉर्मेशन है उसको लास्ट वाले आदमी जिसने इवैक्यूएट करना है उसको टाइमली पहुंचनी चाहिए, और दैट इज वेयर वी फेल समटाइम। इसलिए वो दैट इज द पर्सन हु बिकम्स अ मोर कैजुअलिटी, दैट इज वेयर ऑफ कोर्स द लॉसेस टेक प्लेस। सो लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी के लिए ही अभी वो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट जो है अभी कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम तैयार हो रहा है। मेरे को बताया गया है कि अभी लॉन्च हो गया है, होने वाला है अभी, पर उसके मुताबिक अगर कोई प्राइम मिनिस्टर चाहेगा कि किसी पोस्ट के ऊपर भी आगे जब है वहाँ पर आई मीन पोस्ट के मतलब आगे किसी डिस्ट्रिक्ट के अंदर या आगे वीडियो के पास में भी अगर कहीं पर भी जहाँ पर भी सुनामी हुआ है या जहाँ पर भी अर्थक्वेक आया है वहाँ से किसी से बात करना चाहते हो, ही कैन डायरेक्टली विल बी एबल टू डायरेक्ट, दैट इज नोन एज द डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट कम्युनिकेशन डायरेक्टली। तो इसी के अलावा भी हमें एवलांच के लिए और लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी के लिए और अर्थक्वेक के लिए जैसे मैंने बताया है प्रेडिक्शन के लिए भी हमें ये 3-4 चीज़ें हैं जिस एरिया के अंदर जो है अभी भी डेवलपमेंट करने की ज़रूरत है अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम, और अभी भी टाइम है हमारे पास में। ये तो एक ऑन गोइंग प्रोसेस वगैरह है, होपफुली वी शुड बी एबल टू गेट इट। आप अगर दैट इज ऑल आई हैव गॉट इट। मेरे किसी को भी अगर कोई कोई सवाल है कोई पूछना चाहता है तो प्लीज आस्क, सो आई विल बी एबल टू आंसर, बिकॉज मैं अभी उसके बाद में डॉक्टर दुबे और राम से मतलब जो है थोड़ा सा क्षमा चाहूँगा क्योंकि आज करवा चौथ भी है और वाइफ वगैरह को थोड़ा सा जाना हुआ है, इसलिए मेरे को लेके जाना पड़ेगा उनके पास। अगर किसी पर कोई प्रॉब्लम, अगर किसी कोई क्वेश्चन वगैरह है, बट आई विल आंसर इट बिफोर आई स्विच ऑफ। Anybody has any question, please raise your hand, please whatever you want to answer, anything about the early warning or anything you want to know, something whatever is happening in the national level, on the disaster management or at the international level. Whatever I know, I'll be able to tell you. Otherwise, if I don't know, I will try and get the information for you and will convey it to you. Anybody?
So there's a question came up on YouTube channel. Somebody was asking that what about is there any earlier warning about the lightning which happened in last 2-3 years? The light. Just let me read the question verbally. Any update? Any such early warning on the lightning? As the last few years, we had seen lot of tragedies due to this lightning thing.
Then say again, I couldn't get it, please. In fact, there's some
Basically, I understood it. In last few years in India, there is a lot of death happened due to lightning, the sky lightning.
Oh, okay. Lightning.
So,
Yeah.
just want to say, can't it be prevented earlier if it is there?
Yes. In fact, very right. In fact, lightning is one area. Of course, we are losing almost, but I think 3,000 lives in a year. And mostly, in fact, I mean, happening in the area of Orissa, mostly happening in the area of Bihar, and some other areas also, which is happening there only. Yes, early warning system is been started, and one person, I think his name is also there. In fact, I mean, I was seeing he's one of the speakers, I think Colonel Sanjay. So he is the basic person. He will be able to tell you what all action which have been taken. And Sanjay Srivastava is the overall in charge. He's the one who started off, and he is the one who's taking the lead in fact, what all the do and don'ts for, in fact, when the lightning takes place, before that only, and even during the lightning also, what is required to be done. As far as the prediction is concerned, yes, they, in fact, they have been predicting it, which are the areas where will be lightning, which will be likely to take place. So that is the only thing is at the national level, it is yet to come, but he is doing it from the Jharkhand side also. That is good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think
any other question? Any other question?
That's it. Nobody is asking as of now. So Sanjay Srivastava, just for an update, Sanjay Srivastava sir was a speaker, and the COPSI was a part of our first event in 2020. So
yes.
he enlightened with these things. So when you said his name, I just recalled it. Thank you very much, sir, for giving the time and giving just to our update. Sir is not in India; he's outside. So this is the evening time, and really appreciate that he's very keen about the Karwa Chauth thing, because now they can see the moon. For us, we have to wait till evening. Thank you very much, sir. So this is directly from the US, from the the lead senior consultant of UNDRR, Arise India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll switch off now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rakesh, let's move further now. Sir, you are unmuted. Please unmute your mic, sir.
Yeah. Now I am audible? Yeah. So after having views and learning from Brigadier Dr. B.K. Khanna ji, we will move to next speaker, Mr. Mayank Dadu. So Mayank Dadu, can you, are you online? So we are handing over this screen to you. Mr. Dadu, welcome on behalf of us.
Yes, sir, I am online.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ramji. Thank you so much, Dubey, sir. It's indeed a pleasure to hear Brigadier Saab. He just had to go. So I think many of the things have been pretty much covered by Brigadier Saab over here, in which he has already been giving what exactly the Sendai framework speaks of. Now, while I was listening to Brigadier Saab, I actually changed my my entire content. Reason was because it would have been a bit of a repetition in that case. So I will be continuing from where the Brigadier Saab has just left. So Brigadier Sir has pretty much covered about the multiple scenarios of the natural disasters and how these natural disasters are being covered in early warning systems, which have been established in multiple countries. Am I allowed to share my screen so that Just a second, I'll.
Absolutely. This gray share screen, you can share it.
No, actually, it has shown disabled share. The host disabled attendee sharings.
I'll just update it. Just is it activated, sir?
Just a second. Yes, perfectly. Is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. This side, Mayank Dadu, and I am a certified professional in NFP and NEBOSH. These are the bodies which regulate how the fire protection systems are designed for any of the occupancy. And NEBOSH is basically the body where we get to know about how the building audits are done, what all things are required, and how it has to be done. I'm also graduated in disaster management, and that's the reason I have been here invited by Dubey sir to be in front of you all. So moving forward with this, as Brigadier Saab has pretty much covered the Sendai framework, so I won't be speaking on that particular topic though. So my whole idea is like, sir has given you a notion of how the early warning systems work, but my ideology is where does the early warning systems should get into the picture? Like, should it come into the mitigation segment or the preparedness segment? So for that, this is basically the disaster management cycle, which we all know that it starts from the preparedness, then goes to any of the disaster which breaks down in your particular premises, and how we are going to take the actions onto that disaster. What will be our response in that case? And then we'll start rehabilitation of the same. And after that, we do a reconstruction, we mitigate the disaster, and again comes the preparedness. So the early warning system is basically the whole ideology is about the preparedness part, where we create the contingency plannings. Because when we, as a professional, when we sit and we act to design any particular system, whether it is a fire protection system or life safety system, the ideology is not to mitigate the risk. The ideology is that the risk should not even take place at the very first segment. Like, we are not planning that agar aag lagegi to kya hoga. Our ideology is that to make the premises safe enough so that the fire doesn't break down in that particular area, right? Moving forward, when we speak about integrated early warning system, why the word integrated is there? Like, sir has given you a complete history of how all the three conferences in the Japan took place, and from Yokohama to Yugo and then to Sendai framework, how these people have given multiple agendas and how they are planning towards the futuristic approach of 2030. But when it comes, like, slowly and gradually, starting from 1995 to 2030, the entire global village has grown. It has grown in the format of technologically, physically. So when we speak about technology part, this technology part plays a really important role. How the technology is used now, we all can see in this very place, like how the technology is used, and the entire systems have been developed. So the early warning system comprises of 4 stages. That is your disaster risk knowledge. The second is your detection, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting. The third one is your preparedness at all the levels. And the fourth one is dissemination and communication. So the idea is, first we should be aware of what the city, the geography of the area, or all the stakeholders which are there. We should have a particular knowledge of what kind of disasters can be break down in the premises. Second is, at what scale are we going to detect them? How we are going to detect those disasters, so that again the idea is not to mitigate them, The idea is so that the disaster do not take place at the very first stage. If we are somewhere about 60% or 70%, if we achieve that the disasters cannot happen in that place, so the entire risk factor is reduced. So detection, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting, that's come the second step. The third is to the preparedness. What if the disaster breaks down in the premises? What will be our complete flow chart? Whom we are going to give a call at the very first site? How the people and the forces will come into the complete role of action. And the fourth one is the communication part. To reduce the loss of life, to reduce the loss of property, a proper communication setup has to be created. Same thing with the complete brief. How the systems are differed from each and everything. Like are the hazards and the vulnerabilities well known? What are the patterns and the trends in these factors? Are risk maps and data widely available to us? Because until unless we have the complete analysis of the past risk which are been there, we cannot come up with the knowledge of the particular risk. Then there is a monitoring and warning service. Develop high monitoring and early warning services. So when we speak about the monitoring and the warning services, this is all we are like when the disaster is about to break down, or we can take the example over here of the COVID. When the COVID was there in the play from 2020 somewhere approx. So as soon as the entire world was going to know about it, the entire world was getting to know about that the COVID has breakdown in the entire premises. Soon the social media and the other medias and different kind of communication channels has started taking place. And this is how the knowledge was being communicated to each and everyone in a very, very short duration of time. The third one is the communicate of the risk information early warnings. So what problems one can possess during that disaster and how people can be saved from that. And then there is a response capability. See, the disaster can happen anytime, but how we are going to be responsive to that, that is what is required. So to create a proper plan, how to mitigate that disaster, the local capabilities, how they all are will be in sync, whether it is your local body or it is your state body, how everybody will be in sync and how everyone is going to act at the time of disaster, that is very much required. Early warning systems, here I have given one particular very short example of flood. Using all the four which we were discussing up till now, that is your risk, knowledge, your monitoring and warning, your communication part, and your response capability. Like how each and everything plays into a complete role when we speak about these four particular timeline. Like, are we well equipped with the knowledge? How we are monitoring it? Are we monitoring the river level? We are giving the redfall. You might have known that sometimes in the forecasting we get the red alert is there, that there is going to be a lot of rainfall, and so forth. The local authorities of yours, such as collector and different authorities, they take the decision that the schools and the community places will be closed down. The reason is this, that this red alert is basically what we are getting is the ideology of the monitoring and warning. And then the communication takes place that through different kind of medias, we circulate to the people that, okay, it's better to be at home and not to roam out because there is a red alert around the town. What if there is a lot of rainfall and there is water everywhere? How we are going to be responsive to that particular thing? How we are going to evacuate people in case if there is a high level of water in a particular segment? How we are going to relocate the people who are stuck in that flooding area? So this is the complete cycle how we work upon the early warning systems. Again the same. So when we speak about early warning systems in this particular image, that early warning systems is on the top because there are few things which we have to do before giving the early warning or before triggering the event. That is your disaster risk reduction. Our ideology is to understand the root cause, then to get the drivers which are in place, the stakeholders which are there, and then we'll get to know that how many areas are exposed to that particular disaster and what we can do. And then comes the triggering of any of the hazard. Now we are moving towards that how the early warning systems can be used at multi-level stages. So Brigadier Sir and I, we have been speaking about a lot about early warning system, but there are so many disaster or hazards which can break down in a particular premise, right? So how we are going to create a multi-hazard early warning dissemination system, that is more important, so that one system is put to a place, and through that one particular system we get to know about multiple disasters. Like that system should give us a signal about flood, that same system should give us a signal about tsunami. This I am speaking of the natural disasters, but what about the man-made disasters? Are these particular systems even equipped to communicate about man-made disasters which can break down in the premise? So how these particular systems will come to a use and can come singularly at one place and give each and every information to all the stakeholders which are there. The multiple stakeholders are government agencies, critical agencies, police, media, military, then your UN, NGOs and everyone. These people should get the warnings and these people should come into the action. Similarly, the people who are living in the premise, they should get to know that something is happening and they should remain safe. When we speak about multi-level early warning system, multi-level hazard early warning systems, this is something which comes to a place. This is IoT. IoT is all about Internet of Things. So when we speak about that, the multiple systems will come together and they will speak to each other so that they can give you the complete information in one go. Then the Internet of Things come into the picture. You can see there are so many services out there. There is like, if I give you one very short example, when you enter Marriott or Sheraton or any of the hotel premise, at the gate you get checked. They check you, they check your entire vehicle, they check yourself. Before you enter the premises, they do a frisking, and then you cross multiple barriers, and then you are allowed to enter into a function. So all these things are linked together. There are CCTV surveillance cameras, there are boom barriers, there are multiple security equipments which check you thoroughly so that there is no gadget which is harmful for the premises gets inside. Similarly, and if they find anything, they are going to raise an alarm. Internet of Things. So to that, now taking this Internet of Things onto a bigger picture, there are IoT enabled city, the smart city concept, which is coming into the move now. Like there is already Ujjain smart city, Indore smart city. There are different departments who are working in this line. Then there are IoT enabled shops, airports, stations, which are advanced level public places. These public places are connected with your local body, which is known as Control Command Center, and minute to minute monitoring can be done. The similar kind of stuff you can find in a privatization occupancies as well. The new constructions, these are coming up with all such kind of IoT equipments. Now, how one can implement the IoT? The IoT is implemented in 5 stages. The stage 1 is identify IoT objectives and IoT use, and which are suitable for your complete occupancy. For example, what all things do we have to cover? Does it is only about the security? It is about the energy consumption. It is about the easy integration of multiple services. What all objectives are we trying to cover? That is your stage 1. Then stage 2 gives you select necessary IoT components suitable for your use case. Now, what happens is when we speak about a particular building, when I speak, because we cannot directly go to the entire nation and start implementing all the equipments there, right? We have to start from a particular building, a particular occupancy. This occupancy gives you multiple services. There are services such like HVAC, which is your air conditioning and cooling. Then there is your plumbing, your firefighting. Then there is your sewage treatment plants, reverse osmosis plants are there. Then there are pneumatic pumping systems, electricity is there. So multiple services are there in one particular building. All these services are connected through a particular system, which is called as building management. So all these devices has to be Internet of Things compliant, so that all these devices can speak to each other at the time of emergency. Then, which goes to the third of the stage, which is implementation and prototyping. After implementing all these devices in the multiple service of a building, you move towards the fourth stage. That is your integration part. Integration of IoT system with another advanced technologies. For example, if there is any kind of breakdown in your electrical component, what all devices will be stopped, how you are going to take the precautions, how the security system will come into the action in that particular scenario. Or if there is, by any chance, if there is any fire or something, how the fire alarm and detection system which is there in the building is going to manage your other services, that the elevators are going to stop, your exit gates will open, there will be siren in the complete building, evacuation process will take place, how each and every service will placed one after another at the case of emergency. And the fifth one is the apply necessary security measurements. This is what the steps I was speaking of. So complete chain of processes is aligned, and all these processes are integrated through IoT equipments. Now comes the entire, all these services, like what I have been speaking of is video analytics, CCTV, unified group communication, emergency communication, network audio and public addressable. All these things come at the one particular place, and they give you a complete control command center. Through this particular center, you can control your entire building. This basically helps you to reduce onto the workmanship. There will be very less people working, but the systems will be highly efficient. This is a modular based system. Like you can add or you can deduct any of the service as and when you want. Then this is scalable also. The idea of using this is like when we speak about multi-level hazard early warning systems. So when the multi-level is considered, so right from a short circuit through to your big fire break, anything and everything can be considered through this particular control command center. And it is definitely reliable because what you have been using is there is less human intervention. So when there is less human intervention and machine dependency, the machine dependency gives you accurate results. Human intervention can somehow has multiple loops in it. So from one particular universal console, everything is managed. Your entire building gets managed through one room itself. If you want to increase the temperature of your HVAC, you want to decrease it, you want to monitor the fire alarm, you want to monitor the terrorist attack, you want to monitor the security, safety, access controls. If there is unauthorized access of some particular employee or visitor, you can monitor that as well. You can stop them entering that very particular place, and each and everything, you get it on one particular screen. And this is how all, see, disaster can not always be natural. It can be man-made also. How we can raise an early warning system for the man-made disasters. And this comes to the building management systems. So if, as you can see, the entire area, all the things which are being highlighted are connected. These are connected through particular ducts. And now down here, it is the control command center, where you will get information of everything. So when this, and now imagine this scenario that there are multiple buildings in the town. All these buildings have their own BMS, your building management systems are in place. All the buildings are connected with the control command center of their individual building. And at the same time, these individual buildings are connected with the control command center of your city. So the communication will be in fraction of seconds. Today, if there is some kind of fire which breaks down at a particular premise, people keep on giving calls to the fire department. Then fire department comes into the action. Then people start moving. It takes somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes for the fire local authorities to reach at the place and start combating with fire. What if at the start of the smoke only. As there is a smoke in particular floor, there are detectors placed. These detectors give the complete command to their control command center. From that control command center, after a particular duration of time, the complete control command center gives this particular signal to your city surveillance. And from the city control command center, there is alarm generated, and the vehicles start moving to take their action. The action time is reduced, and there will be efficiency in the complete action which can be taken from the local authorities. All these buildings, if they are connected in the control command center of the city, the reaction timing will be very much reduced, and there will be no loopholes and no human intervention in between. What all things we can control when we speak about building management system? We can go ahead and we can control the cameras, which are your eyes on every floor and every place as and when you want. There will be one person monitoring the entire system. That person has to be not very attentive, because see, when you increase human intervention, there are chances of loopholes. So there will be proper alarms which will be physically which will pop up onto the screen, and the person who's sitting physically can have a look onto that. Then you can use the access controls. um, like, people cannot use the fire exits as and when they are required. People will only use their fire exits at the time of any emergency. Fire annunciation and alarm system, these all systems are directly connected to your building management system, so that in case of any detection, immediately your extinguishment and evacuation processes are started. Sometimes what happens is that there is not much of occupancy in particular floor. You can regulate the entire AC, and you can regulate the power and the electricity consumption of that floors. This will help you to reduce your costs, your operation costs. Then there is power control and lighting, as I was explaining about. Then there is elevator control system. It has been said that when there is any emergency and there is a break and breakdown of fire, we close down the elevators. We ask people to move through the fire exits and take these staircases. So you start your force ventilation, you cut down the elevator power, you start your firefighting system, the access controls gets disabled. Then your surveillance systems is activated to identify exactly which place there is fire which has been broken down. And this is how the entire thing goes into the place. Now my point is, and I'll stop sharing. Yeah. So the entire idea to show this complete PPT to everybody was, like, when we speak about early warning systems, uh, these systems has to be start from a particular building, and all these buildings have to come together and get into a synchronization with the city planning and the city control command center. That is how you can achieve accurate disaster risk reduction system. So because if any place, any kind of disaster or hazard breaks down, whether man-made or natural, there will be loss of life, there will be loss of property. And here we are looking for the better preparedness, not to mitigate the disaster or hazards, but the ideology is to come up with the systems which prevent the disasters from happening. So this was all from my side. I hope you got to know about different systems which are there in place, like how the IoT is the new age technology which is coming into the picture for the early warning systems, and how the complete mm, BMS or different systems which are there in place are acting to prepare the this complete city as a complete fire safe or any of the disaster proof area. Um, so thank you so much. This was all from my side. Over to Ramji and Dubey sir.
Uh, thank you very much, Mr. Mayank, for giving the time and your valuable feedback on the fire safety things and others. So this is really helpful to us to have your feedback on this, and really thankful to come the event where we are going to. I'll just Rakesh Dubey sir, because he will just conclude everything, and what we discussed, that this event is not only about the speaking or something like that, but what we work it out. How can we do an amalgam of lot of things, other different experts on this event? Rakesh Dubey sir. I think he had some issue in that. Let me see. Hello. Let me ask.
हाँ राम,
Yes
हाँ
sir.
थोड़ा सा नहीं, हम कुछ सुन नहीं पाए, हमारे यहाँ कुछ साउंड का इशू हो रहा था,
Sir, now you
साउंड
can
नहीं आ
hear.
रहा।
Sir, we are
हाँ
here.
अब,
We are sir.
हाँ
We are able to hear you.
हाँ बताइए प्रश्न क्या है, मैं
It's
प्लीज।
not a question, sir. It's just sir has completed. So now we have
ओके,
waiting for.
हाँ वो वही, उनका भी मुझे कुछ कुछ सुनाई दिया, कुछ नहीं दिया, एनीवे। सो दादू साहब, रियली थैंक्स फॉर शेयरिंग
Sir,
द थिंग।
there is one question. Somebody is asking that what about the fire safety issues which happened in the factories? Because I think somebody is already ready with this question earlier. They had
ओके,
posted if somebody wants to ask question, so that person didn't join it. But there is a question. What about the factory fire safeties for the MNCs? They are already involved in a lot of activities, but in these local factories don't get involved in this fire safety, and not even government force them. So how can they? The reason behind that is to decrease the cost. They want to decrease the cost, and due to which they don't follow the fire safety thing. So what can be done on that case?
So basically, like on the day when I met Dubey sir, there was a commissioner of fire safety department was also there. So we had a very brief discussion with him as well. So he also told me that see, basically, if I speak about Maharashtra or if I speak about Gujarat fire services, these people are very much strict with their norms and their laws.
Okay.
Similar kind of act and planning is about to come in Madhya Pradesh as well.
Mm-hmm.
There will be Fire Act which will be implemented in Madhya Pradesh, and then everybody has to go down to a particular process. It's already there though. We have been working, like there are industries who are very much strict, like all the industries who are working abroad, who are working internationally, who are exporting their material. They have to go down to the complete bylaws which are recommended by your National Building Code and Indian standards of fire safety and security. There are small industries which you are talking of there. I 100% agree with your point as well, that there are small industries which do not even think कि अच्छा चलो ठीक है हम budget cut कर देते हैं, fire safety छोड़ देते हैं. But that is what I would suggest here to all the people who are coming from such.
Hello. Hello.
8% you should spend on your fire and safety.
Sir, just I.
It should come down in the particular percentage कि अगर हमारा कंस्ट्रक्शन x अमाउंट का है तो उसका 7% तो एटलीस्ट हम लोग फायर सेफ्टी पे करेंगे. रीजन इज दिस कि व्हेन वी स्टार्ट फिगरिंग आउट कि यार कितना होना चाहिए, हमें वो हमेशा कॉस्टली लगता है. बट इफ वी मेड इट अ पैक्ट कि यार 8% शुड बी spend on your fire protection and life safety systems, it will be part of your complete budget. This is a problem at our place, that we are willing to spend a lot of rupees on aesthetics, on elevation, on looks. We do not even think twice before implementing fall ceiling. But fall ceiling और प्लाई का काम कराने में जितना रिस्क बढ़ जाता है फायर का, वो हम ध्यान नहीं लगाते. So when the architects and the planners will start thinking about that this very percentage is going to be used of your budget in fire and safety, then everything will be smoothly done. And soon, I think so, from the local authorities as well, when there will be Fire Act implemented and there will be a strong move from their end also, people will start taking this as a serious point.
Mm. Sir, I just have one thing. I'm from a corporate health and wellness background. My company work in that. And what we saw is they implemented a lot of, because to work in a factory to get the licenses, they have to work it on fire safety. And it's not only about fire safety, but other disaster things like health and safety, fire, and other equipment. They implement it at the time of the certification. They implement everything. Everyone's perfect. But as the time passes, it is just a certificate becomes a formality and things go. I'm not talking about MP. I'm talking about Pan India. I'm serving at 3,600 location at Pan India. But most of the factories, the smaller, or you can say a mid-size as well, they are majorly focused on production. Okay, employee health is a separate thing. Fire safety is a separate thing. That was taken as for granted. Even there is the employee health safety officers are there. They are appointed EHS department, which takes care of employee health and the factory safety. But the implementation was somewhat, I should not comment it, but I don't mind saying it. From authority side, it was not that much, strictly force them to do. If they force it, they start finding the other way around. It is happening. So, is there any fine thing can work it out that automated the thing can be the fire safety and other certificates can be, once they get expired, the factory got something automatic. Because अगर मेरा fire safety expire आज हो गया, so it doesn't matter कि ठीक है, जब तक audit नहीं आएगा, it is running on that. Fine आएगा, that was a different scenario, the thing. So can it be, regularize something like that?
It is regularized. Okay, so if you have the information, like after COVID, during COVID, there were many hospitals which got into fire, and there were a lot of loss of property and life, right?
Absolutely.
So the local authorities, even in MP and around the India, they took this key every year. All the hospitals have to submit their audit report, where they have to go with the internal audit as well as the external audit, that the registered people are going to audit the entire premise. Similar kind of things are going to come in this very Fire Act, which I am speaking of. After every 6 months, they have to submit an audit report in which they have to conduct a drill. They have to come down with all the pros and cons of the system which is there, and how they are going to keep their premises safe. All these audit reports will be submitted in the local authority department, such as your Nagar Nigam and whosoever come under that. So I think so, even if their fire officers have been placed, so in their internal audits, they have to submit that report to the person who will be coming and auditing the entire premise externally. So every month you will audit your entire premise, you'll prepare that report. In every 6 months, there will be an external visit which will conduct an audit. And these audits, there will be a proper index through which that audit will go into the place, because the idea is to make the idea is to keep the Surakshit Bharat wala jo concept hai, that is coming down to the place. And in that case, 6 monthly audit and bi-monthly audits are now the provision in the Firefighting Act. So up till now, if it was not been seen, now it will be implemented from the authorities itself. So things are getting better. Let's hope.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. Please, sir, now Rakesh, sir, you can proceed on the conclusion part, please. Rakesh, sir. Sir, you have to unmute your mic. Sir, your mic is.
It is okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you, Mr. Dadu, for highlighting this technological part, and especially on the fire issues, and you highlighted some issues on the regulatory part also. I would like to express a little bit in a different way about overall disaster or fire safety. You see, we are having traffic rules. Okay, we are having traffic rules. When we have to go for the on-to bike, we have to keep helmet on our head. Two-wheeler should be complying all minimum requirement as per the regulation. If we are having 4 vehicles, then we have to go at least our belt. Number one thing. Then on the road, we have squares चौराहे होते हैं जहां पर वी आर हैविंग रेड लाइट, ग्रीन लाइट, like that. Now you see, this is the duty of every citizen, that when they are on the road, they have to keep helmet on their head if they are on the two-wheeler, or if on the car, then they have to ensure the fastening of the belt, and they have to ensure that okay, we should respect the signals. But you see, what's the behavior of the common person? Basically, we will see if पुलिस वाला खड़ा हुआ है तो हम उस रास्ते से कट जाएंगे, अगर खड़ा हुआ दिखा तो हम कहीं उठ के हेलमेट लगा लेंगे. मीनिंग टू से दिस इज थिंग. एंड हम देखेंगे कि रोड अगर खाली है, रेड सिग्नल है, तब भी हम निकल जाएंगे क्योंकि पता है कि कोई है नहीं ट्रैफिक पे. मीनिंग टू से अल्टीमेटली दिस फायर सेफ्टी एंड डिजास्टर कैन नॉट बी गवर्न्ड बाय एनी गवर्नमेंट, कैन नॉट बी गवर्न्ड बाय एनी लॉ. It is self-motivated things. So unless industries think that fire safety is must for them, and they should understand and they should have a clear-cut understanding, I think, Mr. Mayank, you can start thinking on that, to motivating them that, sir, this is not the regulatory part. You have to think it. If you are investing single penny, it will save you thousands of rupees to you. So basically, as far as my understanding is this, in last so many years, that unless the behavioral change or thinking is not changed, whatever we will put, either you put n number of regulation, you put of n number of monitoring, you put n number of fire drills or disaster drills, there are always shortcuts. And there are shortcuts means they are not respecting the thing. So basically, for any type of thing, respect is required, to respect and to honor that thing. If we can inculcate this type of behavior, it can be, will have a lot of sense on this. And just coming and just mera sense, sixth sense काम किया है कि we are always speaking on disaster management and like that. Why don't we think around next program you think it? We should not speak on the disaster, we will not speak on the fire. Let's speak on the business continuity planning linked with the fire safety and disaster. हम जब तक उनके बिजनेस एंगल से उनको मोटिवेट नहीं करेंगे, मुझे लगता है कि दादू साहब कुछ भी उनको ऑडिट करें, चाहे नेबॉस के थ्रू और लोगों का लेकर आए, उनको पोस्ट भी कराएं नेबॉस पास बंदों को. Regulators, I don't want to comment on the regulator part because I was part of that regulatory agency. So हम 10 लोगों को भी रख दें, लेकिन वही होगा जो अकबर की कहानी थी. पहले दूध आया था शुद्ध, फिर बाद में उन्होंने 1 इंस्पेक्टर रखा, फिर 2 इंस्पेक्टर रखे, फिर 4 इंस्पेक्टर रखे. 5वें इंस्पेक्टर के बाद पता लगा उस राजा को सिर्फ पानी मिलता था, दूध नहीं मिलता था. तो leave that story of the regulator and enforcement. We have to think for the motivational thing. So let's think it something. अभी extempore मुझे क्लिक हुआ कि हम डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट पे प्रोग्राम नहीं करेंगे, अब हम रखेंगे बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लानिंग लिंक विद फायर सेफ्टी एंड डिजास्टर थिंग. लेट्स मोटिवेट आवर पर्संस के साथ आप इसको इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, अगर आप इसमें फायर ऑडिट करते हैं, अगर आप ये फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर्स भी लगाते हैं, तो हम इतना सारा सेव कर रहे हैं, इतना सारा हम अपने आप को प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हैं. एंड आल्सो अल्टीमेटली वी आर बिल्डिंग अवर सोशल इमेज. So this is something my comment and observation on overall session, especially to Mr. Mayank Dadu's speech. And definitely Mr. Brigadier Khanna Sahib spoke about UN conferences. You are working a lot on so many conferences, so many seminars going on. If they continue to be held, they are going to be continue organized. But UN and global are working and thinking at the globally. वही concept है कि आप globally जरूर UN का प्रोग्राम होते रहें, but हम उसे locally कैसे act करते हैं, इस पर हमें UN के एजेंडा पे सोचना पड़ेगा. और उसके लिए मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा before we conclude this session, that जो भी UN के कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हुए हैं डिजास्टर से रिलेटेड, UN IDRR और UNDRR के जिन्होंने सेंडाई फ्रेमवर्क किया, जो उन्होंने बताया, हमें इनको लिंक करना पड़ेगा आपको सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स के साथ, क्योंकि दोनों 2015 और 2030 के बीच में चल रहे हैं। अगर हमारा डिजास्टर से हमारी मोर्टिलिटी कम होती है, डेफिनेटली हमारी पॉवर्टी कम हो रही है, हमारा एजुकेशन सिस्टम बढ़ रहा है, हमारा हेल्थ सिस्टम बढ़ रहा है, हमारा सैनिटेशन बढ़ रहा है, तो कहीं ना कहीं हमें इनको लिंक करके भी हम इन सब चीज़ों को और बेटर कर सकते हैं। और डेफिनेटली इन दोनों चीज़ों को हमें वार्निंग सिग्नल्स के रूप में, कि किस प्रकार से हमें सिग्नल्स को और वार्निंग को कम्युनिकेट करना चाहिए। क्योंकि मैं सिस्टम में नहीं हूं और हमारा पर्पज ये है कि हम किस प्रकार से लोगों को जागृत कर सकें। हम इतने कॉन्फ्रेंस करते हैं, लेकिन हमारी कंट्री में अभी भी सिग्नल्स के लिए कोई सायरन सिस्टम नहीं है। सपोज इन भोपाल, इफ सपोज समथिंग हैपेंस, डू वी हैव एनी फायर सिस्टम? इंदौर ने बहुत सारे काम कर रहे हैं वाटर के ऊपर। आप तो हर बार कुछ ना कुछ अवार्ड लेते हैं इंदौर, बट कैन यू थिंक इट फॉर the siren concept also, that people should know, okay, if this type of siren is going on, that is nothing but the early warning for which we are assembled here. अगर इस टाइप का सायरन आए, इस टाइप का सायरन सुनाई दे, इतनी फ्रीक्वेंसी के साथ दे, इतना बीच में गैप हो, वेलिंग सायरन हो, किस टाइप का सायरन हो, तो उसका मतलब क्या है? इस पर भी मोटिवेट करने की आवश्यकता है, उस पर हमें सोचना चाहिए। और क्योंकि आप FASI से जुड़े हुए हैं, नेक्स्ट प्रोग्राम मैं सजेस्ट करूंगा एंड वी विल बी हैप्पी टू सपोर्ट यू। चाहे तो आप उसको बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी के साथ लिंक करें, या अर्निंग वार्निंग को हम अर्बन सेंटर में, इंडस्ट्रियल सेंटर में, रूरल एरिया में हम किस प्रकार से सायरन सिस्टम को स्ट्रेंथन कर सकें, ताकि डिजास्टर को ऑलरेडी हम बहुत हद तक मिटिगेट कर सकें। जो आपने कहा ना अभी कि हमें प्रिवेंट करना है, लेकिन जब प्रिवेंशन फेल हो जाए तो कितने जल्दी हम मिटिगेट कर सकते हैं, या कितने जल्दी हम अपने आप को बचा सकते हैं। आई थिंक द सायरन विल प्ले वाइटर रोल व्हेन प्रिवेंशन फेल्स। तो ये मेरे ऑब्जर्वेशन है, इस पे हमें काम करना है। और चूंकि राम, मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा, मैं तो दादू से, मिस्टर दादू से 1 महीना भी नहीं हुआ आज। आई थिंक 29th it is still missing. We should think for the strengthening of the networking in this sector, because they have good reach, we are also having our own reach. अगर एक एक करके मिलते हैं तो 11 ही होंगे। उस पर हमें वर्क करना चाहिए, उस पर अपन वर्क करते हैं। और कैसे हमें आगे के लिए एक्टिविटीज प्लान करना है, वी शुड थिंक इट एंड वी कैन वर्क आउट। मिस्टर दादू, अभी शायद मुझे इंदौर आना हो, एक आध दिन मुझे जाना है। अगर मैं आता हूँ देन आई विल कॉल यू, तो हम मीटिंग करते हैं, है ना? और अगर मुझे मौका मिलता है तो मैं आपको भी अपने साथ ले चलूंगा, लुकिंग टू द प्रोटोकॉल ऑफ दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, इफ दे अलाउ me to have that type of things. Definitely I would like to involve you also in that. So in these words I would like to thank all, and I'm handing over to Mr. Ram. Ram, please conclude the session, express the thanks. You are wonderful in speech, I know it, with very comfortable, very low energy में आप बात करते हैं, I do appreciate. So concluding or session is for you, so that you can conclude it, please. Mr. Over to Ram.
Thank you very much, sir, for the nice words, Mr. Mayank. Thank you very much for your wonderful experience and wonderful things like sharing the experience. And what sir had said, we definitely move further, and we would like to involve people like you over this thing. How we can actually ultimately the event. This event is not only about to talk, but how we can implement, to find the way how to implement the things. And what I found the conclusion of this event, that instead of talking, instead of giving motivating at a corporate level, let's move down to the not as a government level, but let's move out to the corporate level. And if we can move out to the individual level, that will be more helpful. If instead company is working there on a other part, but when employees start thinking for other things, these fire safety, other safety norms, so definitely there will be a change. And definitely very soon we'll work out on this event where we can involve the corporates and companies in this, and we'll start working on a network over the events. So thank you very much, sir. And here I total, if I say every year there is different industries people join, and this time people from fire safety had joined on a more level, which I find it out because I shared this with the corporate clients as well. So people from employee health safety guys had joined it. So it was a really good event, and so here I conclude the RAKSHA-3 event as a wonderful event with the Brigadier Sahab and Mr. Mayank on that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Rakesh sir, for a good, great partner for us. Thank you. So please, thank you very much, sir, for also joining the event. Here I conclude.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayank. Thank you, sir.